This is Sean Ruddy, coming to you live. This is the most haunted house in the United States. Oh, come on, that doesn't even look real. Somebody help me!
Sean.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we'll recap a 2022 American found footage supernatural horror comedy film named Deadstream. Before we start, it is a request to please like and comment on the video as it will help us to grow our reach. At the start of the movie, we see a disgraced YouTuber personality, Sean, known for videos featuring him performing stunts to overcome his fears. We then see that one of Sean's videos resulted in a serious controversy that lost him his sponsors and much of his fan base. 6 months later, he comes back to Livid and tells the audience that he is mortally terrified of ghosts. Desperate to regain his popularity and retain his new sole sponsor, he plans to livestream himself spending the night in Death Manor, a purportedly haunted house where several people have died. If he hears or sees anything there, he will have to check it out, or he will not get paid. Now as the live stream begins, Sean shows the Death Manor, and tells the audience that this is the most haunted house in the United States. He then throws his car's spark plugs into the woods, and while heading towards the manor, he tells the history of the manor. The owner's daughter Mildred committed suicide here and became the first of many deaths in this house. He sets up a camera outside the house and says that all of the cameras are motion activated. He then enters the mansion, locks the door behind him, and throws the key down a grate. Further, he tells that after Mildred's death, 11 more people died in the house before it was finally boarded up in 1956. Throughout the stream, Sean periodically opens the chat screen to react to his viewers' comments. He then says tonight he is going to be monitoring 3 rooms, all of which have actual documented paranormal activity. He enters the master bedroom and places a camera on a wall there. He then tells that this room has 2 separate reports of the same ghost. In 1910, a man named Max Lowland wrote about a dream he had while sleeping in this room. In his dreams, he wakes up and sees a very tall man in the north corner of his room. He can't see his face, but he knows he was watching him, and he always whispers the same thing: "The pond water still." 1 year later, Max Lowland died in his sleep. Then in 1995, a team of paranormal investigators came into this room and took this picture. Suddenly he hears a thud and gets terrified, and runs out of the room. He then shows the place where Mildred hung herself, and then he comes to the 2nd floor. Here he tells about the nursery, where 5 children have died. He enters the room and plays a video of some ghost hunters from the 90s, in which a little girl saw something in that room. Meanwhile, Sean sets up a camera there and moves toward the last room. He enters there and it's a bathroom, and he tells that the last death he could find happened in this bathtub in 1995. He sets up a camera there too and plays a video recording, in which 2 paranormal investigators record sounds like mama and pond water. Now while setting up the other cameras, he tells that Mildred lived in this house for 8 years, writing poems about the romantic love she didn't have. But finally, a handsome wealthy publisher named Lars Jorgensen passed through her small town. They fell in love, and for 2 years, they wrote each other love letters almost every day. He then enters a room and says this room has not had any reports of paranormal activity. He declares it the safe room and sets up his equipment there. There he finds a closet, and in it, he finds a strange symbol hanging. He takes it out and throws it there on the floor. He then opens the chat screen and someone asks him to provoke the spirit. Sean continues the story and tells that after writing each other letters for 2 years, Lars asked Mildred to marry him and move to Boston. But just 2 days before she was supposed to move, Lars unexpectedly died, and she hung herself the next day. And legend has it that everyone who died after her is still in this house. He speculates that the various deaths over the years were Mildred trying to build a family she was unable to have in life. He then finds a doll under a bed and puts it on a chair, and then he attempts to provoke the spirits via a seance. Suddenly he hears a loud thud and gets terrified, and fearfully shuts himself up in his room. Chat then starts sending him photos of someone from outside, and when he checks the recording, he sees a shadow entering a room. He gets terrified to see this and hides inside the closet, and the chat tells him to go out to check. Now when he comes out, he hears a thud again, and then someone runs and opens the door. Sean runs back to his room, and then someone bangs on the door. He starts screaming in fear, but it turns out to be a superfan named 𝐀𝐋𝐖, who has traveled to Death Manor to meet him. She says she wants to help him with ghost hunting, because she is good at stuff like that. But Sean is so scared that he starts leaving from there. However, when 𝐀𝐋𝐖 tells him that he is getting a lot of views, he checks his stream and sees that he is really getting millions of views. He creates a poll and asks the audience if they want 𝐀𝐋𝐖 to be there, to which most of the viewers vote in her favor, and he allows her to stay to please his viewers. Sean then gives her a camera and they set out for ghost hunting, and 𝐀𝐋𝐖 says they should go to the master bedroom. Now as Sean is about to enter the room, 𝐀𝐋𝐖 disappears from there, but reappears the next moment. They then enter the room, and suddenly 𝐀𝐋𝐖 screams and says she heard something. Sean checks the closet and finds a secret room there. They go downstairs and find a chest there, and in it, they find Mildred's poetry book. He gets excited to see it but dismisses it as mediocre as it doesn't even rhyme. Just then he sees a dead animal there and both of them run upstairs. Now as the two of them attempt to speak to the spirit of Mildred through a spirit board, 𝐀𝐋𝐖 convinces Sean to recite a Latin phrase to put the ghost to rest. Suddenly they hear a thud sound. He says the motion sensor must have picked up something in the bathroom, to which 𝐀𝐋𝐖 asks him to check it out. But Sean says no. He asks her to go and check and he will monitor her on the screen. Suddenly he hears some footsteps and the planchette moves on its own, and when he checks back the screen, he does not see 𝐀𝐋𝐖 on any of the cameras. He gets terrified and sets out to find her, and after a while, she scares him. Sean gets angry and starts yelling at her. Suddenly she attacks him and bites his neck, and in self-defense, he stabs her in the neck. Sean then checks her and thinks he killed her, and runs to the safe room to call the cops. He asks the chat to call the cops, and when he goes back, he finds her body gone. He checks on the screen and finds Mildred's dead body hanging blocking the stairs. Sean gets terrified seeing it and then chat sends him a video, in which a kid tells him about the symbol that was hanging in the closet. It's known as 𝐻𝐿, which is used to ward off evil, and it was working until he destroyed it. Sean now realizes that he unleashed Mildred and he starts screaming for help. He then tries to escape the place, but as soon as he reaches the stairs, Mildred attacks him. Sean gets terrified and passes out for a while, and during this, Mildred puts her finger in his nose. Sean wakes up, and in the struggle to get himself free, he throws Mildred down the stairs, and searches the grate he had thrown his key down, but only finds the key to a box containing a severed finger and a picture revealing that 𝐀𝐋𝐖 is actually Mildred Pratt. Only then he sees a ghost passing by and he runs upstairs to jump from the window. But there too he is haunted by a ghost. He runs back to the safe room and says they are not letting him leave the house. Now when he checks the chat, a Latin professor claims that the Latin phrase he recited was a soul offering, that Mildred had used to bind the souls of the previous occupants to herself. He then starts getting hate comments on chat due to which he gets frustrated, but only then someone calls his name, and he is again haunted and attacked by Mildred. Sean gets terrified and runs from there and eventually jumps out the second floor window. He then searches for the spark plugs and during this, he hears screeching, and when he finds the plugs, he is haunted by a ghoul. He runs to his car and falls, and only then he finds a cop there. Sean gets happy to see him, but soon he realizes that he is also a ghoul, so he attacks him and runs to his car. Now while hiding in his car, chat sends him a video of 𝐻𝐿 lady. She tells that she used to live in that house when she was 15. She had encountered Mildred, but she created a ward to keep her power at bay. The lady tells that all worthwhile counter vigils require a sacrifice of flesh, but only then he is attacked by a ghoul. Sean finds a potato gun in his car, and he attacks the ghoul with it, but during this, his iPad gets damaged. He then comes back to his car and reads from Mildred's book of poetry, and discovers the incantation that Mildred used to gain her satanic powers, and the phrase repeated by the ghostly voices is actually in one of the poems. Putting the pieces together, he realizes Mildred never wanted a family, but an audience for her poetry. He becomes inspired to complete the ritual to circumvent her power through his own audience, and send her back to hell. Sean returns to the house and arms himself with things available in this house. He then challenges Mildred, and when he reaches the safe room, he finds that he is still streaming. He retrieves a spare iPad and reads the comments that translate the incantation. While setting up the ritual, Sean awkwardly apologizes for his insensitive stunts, racism, and poor apology, vowing to be better. He then sets out to find Mildred but gets possessed by her, and she tries to control him, but Sean fights back and comes to his senses. Suddenly a ghoul attacks him, but Sean fights back and defeats it by injecting it with holy water. Now when he comes out, he is attacked by Mildred, and after a grueling fight with her, Sean gets the upper hand. He sets a camera on her head, drags her inside the symbol, and tapes her on her hands and mouth. He then starts reading the incantation, which didn't work, and Mildred frees herself and knocks him down. She then tries to kill him, but Sean fights back and tries to flee. Mildred chases him, and only then does Sean spot her severed finger, and he remembers the ritual requires a sacrifice of flesh. Now as Mildred approaches him, he takes out the chopper from her head, cuts off one of his fingers, which completes the ritual, and Mildred is dragged into the blood-filled basement by unseen forces. Sean then celebrates, thanking his now massive viewer count for helping him survive the night. However, as he exits, he is surrounded by Mildred's surviving ghoul audience and his live stream cuts out. Please like and subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon never to miss new video updates. Thanks for watching!